OPO recommended that Austin Police Department remove specific language from that places the burden of requesting to be handcuffed by a death practices suggest officers should proactively place in the front to enable communication by language change in regard to the racial or bias-based profiling policy. Requested that APD remove police monitor and replace with the Office of Police Oversight. APD has agreed to update this policy. And now I'd like to update you on our previous quarter's policy recommendations. The first one is transport vehicle recommendation. APD, our recommendation was that APD consider requiring additional arrest transport vans to transport arrestees who exhibit physical resistance during the transportation process. This can aid in helping prevent escalation of force in these incidents. In addition, APD has yet to respond to OPO's recommendation on initial supervisor responsibilities. When it comes to responding to community complaints and treating all internal and external complaints of a minor nature identically, we recommended that they change the wording language in the policy, and we have not heard back on that yet. It's been a pleasure to review what the Policy and Research Division has accomplished in this last quarter. Our work is ongoing, and we look forward to continuing to update the community on our future recommendations. I encourage you to check out our website, which has our most up-to-date recommendations there. Thank you for your time, and now I'll turn it over to Kevin Masters, our Complaints Division Supervisor.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Masters, and I'm the supervisor of the Complaint Division in the Office of Police Oversight. I'm going to be sharing information with respect to complaints, investigations, OPO recommendations, and at the end, I'll try to answer any questions you might have. Here's a brief overview of the Complaint Division process. Step one, any adult or legal guardian may file a complaint in person or at the Office of Police Oversight by telephone, mail, through the website. A community member may also file a complaint anonymously. The complaint supervisor will review each complaint and assign it to a complaint specialist or an investigator to initiate a preliminary review. OPO preliminary reviews generally include looking at body-worn cameras, police dashboard cameras, associated police reports, and anything provided to the investigator or to the office by the community member or the witness. The community member can choose to either have their complaint documented and no additional contact. This could be done anonymously as well. They may request to speak to the police officer supervisor. This can't be done anonymously, or they can request a formal investigation. OPO will facilitate obtaining sworn affidavit statements whenever there's a formal investigation. All complaints submitted to OPO are sent to APD as requested by the complainant. The third step in the process is the complaint investigator will evaluate the preliminary review. The investigator will contact the community member and any witness to conduct additional interviews. If the community member elects to file a formal complaint, the investigator will prepare a detailed report and a sworn affidavit for the community member to sign. All materials are then forwarded to the Internal Affairs Unit of the Police Department. If the complaint is anonymous, the investigator will serve as the affiant on the document to reflect that it was received anonymously externally from a community member. Step 4, monitor and participation of APD Internal Affairs Division's administrative investigations. The complaint supervisor and/or the assigned complaint investigator will monitor and participate in the Internal Affairs Division's administrative investigation and attend any interviews with police officers, witnesses, and complainants. We have unfettered access to additional evidence that may be obtained during the investigation, and we also have access to their final investigative reports. Monthly updates are provided to the community member on the status of the complaint. In step 5, recommendation and closure of complaints. When a complaint is closed, the community member is notified by the Office of Police Oversight of the outcome. If the complaint was filed anonymously, OPO will be unable to provide an outcome. The investigator or specialist will contact a complainant with information on how to get additional information on their complaint following the closure of the investigation. Next, we're going to share some complaint and commendation data for the period January 2025 through March 2025. Unless otherwise noted, OPO is the source for all of the data. Complaints and concerns. A complaint is a verbal or written communication alleging that an officer acted improperly and may have violated policy, law, or an agreement between the APA and the police department. For the period January through March, we had 53 complaints in January, 46 in February, and 83 in March. Anonymous complaint. An anonymous complaint means the identity of the complainant is not recorded by the city. Community members can anonymously submit concerns about their interactions with APD officers by telephone and online. You do not have to provide any contact information. We will be limited in what we can do when the information is not provided. For the period of January through March 2025, we had 4 anonymous complaints in January, 3 in February, and 4 in March. Compliments, also referred to as thank yous. Commendations or positive feedback for officers. A community member may contact the Office of Police Oversight in person, by telephone, or through our website to compliment an APD officer on how they address and resolve their situation or assisted them. Compliments may be submitted anonymously or non-anonymously. For the period January through March, we had 4 compliments in January, 7 in February, 11 in March. Total contacts in January, there were 57 total contacts, 53 in February, and 94 in March. Next, I'd like to review data regarding complaint tracked by the Next, I'd like to review data of complaints that were tracked January through February. I'll start by explaining the definition of those that were tracked. Preliminary review. The preliminary review involves reviewing police officers' body-worn camera, patrol car video, dash cam, police reports, obtaining video or audio recordings from community members, and analyzing the data to determine if an officer violated APD general orders during their interaction with a community member. For the period January through February of 2025, there were 53 preliminary reviews conducted in January, 46 in February, and 83 in March. Sworn affidavits. An affidavit is a sworn statement that has been notarized by a state-approved notary. Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 143 requires a sworn statement in order to question a police officer. All the members of the complaint division are sworn notaries. In January, we had 0 sworn affidavits. February, there were 5. In March, there were 5. Recommended for full investigation. The Office of Police Oversight forwarded all requests for formal investigations to APD Internal Affairs Division. In January, there was 1 forwarded for full investigation. February, there were 6. In March, there were 9. Investigated by Internal Affairs. APD Internal Affairs Division has conducted or initiated an investigation on all external form complaints that was submitted to them by OPO January through March. These numbers only include external complaints originating from the community. APD provides this data, which is confirmed by the Office of Police Oversight. For the period of January through March, there was 1 in January, there were 7 in February, and 9 in March. Pending investigation. These are occasions when we are unable to conduct a preliminary review or investigation, and an APD Internal Affairs Division is unable to identify the event or the APD officer, or the complaint is about another city department or another law enforcement agency. The Office of Police Oversight can only accept complaints concerning active sworn APD police officers. For the period January through March, there were no pending investigations. There were none in January, there were 5 in February, and there were 8 in March. Resigned or separated during the investigation, This data point represents the number of APD officers who resigned or separated from the department prior to the closure of the IAD investigation or before formal disciplinary action could be initiated. In January, there was 1. In February, there was 1. And in March, there were 2. Classifications. Let me walk you through the complaint classifications and how they're classified. The complaint classification provides more insight into the nature of the complaint. Class A being used to identify the most serious policy violations, and Class B is used to categorize complaints which there are no policy violations. This slide represents the totals of each classification, January through March. In January, there were 0 Class A's, February 0 Class A's, and March there were 0 Class A's. For Class B's, January there were 0, February there were 0, March there were 0. Class C, January there were 0, February there were none, and March there was 0. Class D, January there was 1, February there was 1, and March there was 1. Complaints that could not be further investigated, there were 6 in January, 5 in February, and 8 in March. The last set of data shows discipline recommendations made to the police department by the director of the Office of Police Oversight. A disciplinary recommendation is when the director of the Office of Police Oversight makes a non-binding written disciplinary recommendation to the chief of police or the officer's chain of command on critical incidents or administrative investigations. The OPO staff participate and are monitored. In January, there was 1 recommendation made to the chief of police. In February, there was 1 recommendation made to the chief of police. And in March, there was 1 recommendation made to the chief of police. In January, there were 2 recommendations made to the officer's chain of command. In February, there were 0 made to the chain of command, and in March, there was 0 made to the chain of command. These recommendations are posted online and may be reviewed at www.atxpoliceoversight.org. Thank you. That concludes my presentation, and I will turn it back over to Katrina.
Thank you, Kevin and Crystal, for those updates. So the last item we have for you all today is that the Office of Police Oversight is excited to announce that we'll be hosting our first open house event on Saturday, July 19th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Austin Central Library. This event is free and open to the public, and we invite all of the Austin community to come and engage with the OPO staff, learn more about our mission, the complaint process, and how we can all work together to ensure accountability and transparency with law enforcement in our community. You can learn more by visiting the OPO website or scanning that little QR code at the bottom of the screen. And with that, we'll move into our Q&A session. So again, if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. And in order to provide everyone an opportunity to speak, we ask that you do not go over 2 minutes when asking your questions. So we'll do our best to get to everyone, but we are monitoring the clock. So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, can I stand or something?
Sure,
If you'd like to, whatever you feel comfortable doing.
Sure. Hello, is this a fire hazard or something?
Maybe. It might be.
Yeah, go
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go, this is a problem solving thing. Hi, my only question is, if I have a compliment for someone at APD Victim Services, do I still contact you guys?
Yes, the Office of Police Oversight exists with compliments and complaints related to officer conduct. So all you have to do is go online and fill out a form. You can also call us, or you can let me one of our staff members know.
Sweet. My, I guess, the follow-up question then is, they're not an officer, as far as I know. It's Victim Services, which I don't know this technicalities, but I don't think they're officers, technically.
They're civilians, go ahead, Kevin.
They're not, but we will still make sure that the information is forwarded to the Internal Affairs Division so that we can make it to the officer's chain of command and in turn to the officer.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Ramirez, go ahead.
I have a question about anonymous complaints. And I'm noticing that in the complaint type breakdown that you guys have in this quarterly complaints data, that it doesn't, it appears to add up to the total number of complaints, and none of the anonymous complaints seem to be included in this breakdown of type. So one, my initial concern is always, are anonymous complaints being funneled differently through the system? And two, what percentage of anonymous complaints are making it through the system?
Sure. I'd like to pull the slide if you don't mind. Which slide is it? So I can make
Yeah,
sure.
I think it's just the total, this total number, slide 30.
The one before complaint classifications appears?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and so this,
On the one sheet.
the one sheet that we got, the numbers add up to that complaint and concerns column, and it's not, I don't know where the anonymous complaints are
The
going.
anonymous complaints are a subset of the complaints. So when you see 53, that includes the anonymous complaints.
Okay. That includes the anonymous.
Correct.
Okay. And so
And 100% of the anonymous, the other one was what percentage of complaints, anonymous complaints?
are making it through to a recommendation for investigations.
We do
or
a
the
preliminary
supervisor.
review of 100% of the complaints. So we look at every anonymous complaint the same way we do a named complaint. And I don't have a percentage breakdown, but a vast majority of the anonymous complaints are also forwarded to Internal Affairs for review and investigation. The only anonymous complaints that are not forwarded to the police department are anonymous complaints that fall into the pending category. It's not involved an APD police officer. All other anonymous complaints are treated in the same manner as a name.
Do anonymous complaints have sworn affidavits?
Yes, they do.
They do.
Yes.
And do you have a percentage of what anonymous complaints go through to the sworn affidavit base? Because there's a big drop off.
We don't have that data readily available. I can probably get it.
Okay. Great.
It's going to be a change from last year's data to this year's data because this year with the new contract, the contract reads that a member of, well, our policy is a member of our office will serve as the affiant. And so it will be a higher percentage of anonymous complaints that actually have an affidavit than last year.
There will be.
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason being is that last year, if you were gonna file an anonymous complaint, APD had to come down and certify that the complaint was anonymous. And so we think that had a chilling effect. And so now that they don't have to do that and we're certifying that, we think we'll see that number.
It would be great for when you guys do this next roundup to actually see that difference and see if you guys can track that and report on that. That would be helpful because seeing what impacts the contract had on this process, I think is imperative.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you guys had a question?
Yes, I have a question. I see what your presentation, right? But how do y'all, like, the community wants to see real accountability. They want to see real transparency from the APD, not just words, not just like the word transparency, not the word accountability. People use that so often. And then they have to define the word and define, we need action. Like these complaints, where do they go? Like, is it actually there's action being taken? Is accountability is going to be taken? Like, we call the OPO, we call the, like their use of force, that there's a big gap between the community members and the police. What we see is the police doing PR and all this, and in all the news media, they're lying to the news, they're pushed by the union, and pushing where people cannot get access to their complaints. They're trying to pass bills to like people making it hard for people to receive complaints of these police officers, and that's where the big gap's at. And then the police then the community, I'm sorry, but I'm saying the community is like, they're seeing how much use of force, making an arrest. You don't slam nobody down, face down on the pavement. You just don't do that. Policy needs to be changed. When is it going to change? When are these police officers going to be held accountable for for what they do, for their crimes, what they do? We got to speak up for what it is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
If you don't mind, I do think you're referring to an incident that happened a few weeks ago
There's so many,
Oh,
many
okay.
events.
Oh,
Pattern.
Okay.
It's a pattern of practice that they do. They
They ran
slam
into
down.
us with the police car.
I see.
Right.
They
And
slam
we
down-
don't even know what
yeah.
happened that
They
police
slam down a deaf man, a homeless deaf man.
Yeah.
They slam down a trans woman. They slam. Why they keep slamming people down
We see it
using
all the
this
time. Every
move,
weekend they're doing it.
right? You know,
Lisa Davis promised there would be a new police department.
and it's not showing at all. It's not showing. There's no accountability. They always say, "Oh, we're about accountability, transparency." They lie. They lie to people. They're lying to the media. They're lying to the news. The news are lying too. They put the APD's body camera out there first. We filmed what happened, you know, but they're not gonna. We saw what happened too, and we were there as
The way
well.
that they edited the video
For the
camera,
incident,
that
yeah.
incident was like very disingenuous.
So how do you explain that? How do you explain the use of force and the complaints and the accountability? Explain all. We see the presentation and everything, but like, where's the real accountability at? Where's the real transparency? We're tired of like, oh yeah, we're investigating. Oh, it's been investigated. Like, you know.
Yeah, do you mind if I explain the incident that you mentioned just
We
now?
have the video if you want to watch it. It's on YouTube.
Oh, yes, I think some people have seen it, but just for context, so they understand context. There was an incident a few weeks ago where there was an interaction between a trans woman downtown, and there was a use of force incident with the officers. That one, the one you're referring to?
Yes,
And then
that
that
one.
APD did release the body cam shortly after the video went viral, and said that there was no, they did not find a policy violation. Is that the one you're?
Twice they said.
Yeah.
And then.
They always
then
say
they
there's no
told the
policy violation.
LGBTQIA Quality of Life Commissioner Robin Henderson said that the person was treated with dignity and respect.
Is that how?
And that policy and training. So there's a problem with all this crap. There's a problem with the training.
Yeah, there
at the
is.
academy with the Krav Maga. That is not a legitimate throw. Throwing someone on their face is not a legitimate martial arts self-defense move. Number two, she was a victim of sexual assault trying to defend herself, so they victimized the victim and left her teeth and blood all over the pavement. And number three, there's like, I would just like to hear the definition of police accountability and police transparency from someone in charge. That's what I want to hear, the definition.
So I definitely want to speak to that, and we are very familiar with the incident that you are speaking about. If you go to our website, we actually made a recommendation related to that incident after the police department identified that this incident was within policy. We absolutely disagreed. And we noted, and it's posted, I think it's already published. I made a recommendation in related to that, and while, you know, it appeared that the action was within policy, there was something, at least that was their position. We noted that this police officer had used no de-escalation during this incident. And had he used de-escalation, we would not have been there. And so that is what this was about. This incident did not have to happen, in our opinion, from an oversight perspective. We thought that there were some issues in terms of this de-escalation, and we made a recommendation of suspension. I don't know where that has landed in terms of our recommendation. The chief is required per the Resolution 99 and the Oversight Act to respond to any recommendation that we make. She has responded. That is also posted on our website. And of course, her response was that the action that was taken was within policy.
So we're bringing out hundreds of new academy cadets because Joyce Johnson Consulting is doing PR whitewash of the police abuse that we're doing. So is OPO. So we're bringing out hundreds and hundreds of more young officers, going out with the field training officer, learning the same exact techniques that happen there, and the APD is not taking y'all seriously. So what does accountability and transparency look like to you? What is the officer's name that assaulted her? We still haven't had that name clarified.
Yeah.
I think from a perspective of, I mean, we have a very fine line in which we operate in. You know, we have certain authority that's granted to us by resolution, by council. And as part of that, it is to, and speaking to, at the end of the day, we are a recommending authority. We don't have final say. I think everyone knows we don't have the final say
And they could-
on what happens to a police
They could throw
officer.
your recommendation in the trash.
So accountability means a paycheck and transparency means a paycheck because they're not real words. I'm tired of not using real words. We talk about anti-racism, we talk about equality and equity. These are just terms that city council throws around to throw millions of dollars at.
Yeah, they do.
And we do not feel safe as people that are targeted. Like just today, they did ICE raids in South Austin and they did them in North Austin. Like we do not feel safe. They went to elementary schools yesterday. You know, we do not feel
This is-
safe. And the OPO is, so if the police are the knife edge of the law for the legislature and the city council and whatever codes they make, including Trump and his cabinet, whatever the knife edge of the law is the police, the knife edge of accountability is supposed to be y'all. And you're telling me that y'all's hands are still tied after AJC lied to us again on another crappy meet and confer contract. I don't, like, what's transparency? So y'all all know that the downtown Austin command on the body cam has to have their body cams on the entire shift, right? How can we never get those videos released? How can we get these little pieces? That's not even transparent. When we get when we ask for information on this,
They're
they gave us a
redacted.
completely redacted. So redaction law, the victims are the only people you can redact. They cannot redact the entire report for the officers. There's just literally no police accountability. And I've been saying, y'all know who I am. Yeah. I've been saying there's no police accountability in Austin for at least 10 years, doing this work. There's also not transparency, but what we have is a lot of lip service and a lot of techniques and a lot of information.
Presentation.
But your own information says they only investigated one a month
Just
out
one.
of out of 200.
Is that
So,
transparency there? No.
Where's
it's
the?
not.
I didn't see any criminal investigation. There's not even a line item for criminal investigation in this form right here. It doesn't have a line item, and there's absolutely zero from talking to y'all in the last OPO meeting. Well, not the previous one with Jeff Zavala. That the Constitution isn't even considered by the city of Austin and this process.
So
Y'all
what
aren't
is
even looking at
speaking to the
constitutional law.
Criminal investigation, because that's clearly outside the scope of our authority.
That's what SIU does,
That's
right?
what SIU.
And that's how this is the process to get there.
And our office, within our authority is administrative investigations and not criminal investigations.
But
So just wanna make
how we
that-
make the complaint and get to SIU is broken then. There's absolutely no way. So in other words, let me get this clear. There is no law. If the police and the government can break the law at will, then we don't have any law. You eroded the law. You've literally eroded the law. Now everyone can go do whatever they want because you're allowing officers to kill people with immunity and kill people with impunity like Christopher Taylor and so many others. You're allowing the officers to hide behind all this stuff. You're redacting stuff. You're like, literally, I'm trying to get my own police complaints. I've talked to someone here, and I was supposed to read, I talked to people over and over and over. I think I talked to you. And City League was supposed to give it to me. Actually, before you told me it wasn't my information, even though I turned it into the police, I couldn't get it back because of the contract to turn it into police information. That's whatever. So now, the last time I talked to them, like a couple weeks ago, you guys, they said, resubmit it. The PIO wants to charge me for the data. See, that's not transparency. I work for a 501c3 nonprofit as a press. I do this work. I'm probably the only one in this room. Well, I'm sorry. We're probably the only people in this room that actually do police accountability work. And our video is being looked at in South Africa. It's being looked at all over the nation. Like, people are telling us, yes, our friend across the seas contacted us and said, you know, this is what's going on in Austin. So what's going on is a blight. And the LGBTQIA people are upset about this, and we will be protesting this, and it's going to get hotter and hotter because we've had no accountability. When we don't get accountability, a riot is the language of the unheard, Martin Luther King Jr. So we need something more. I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Number one, I noticed the OPO email is not, there's an email link inside the thing, but inside the email form. But the OPO email needs to be published on the website so people can email y'all directly.
I think it is something, but if
Yeah.
you don't mind showing me,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to fix that.
Yeah.
I'm the one who managed the website. If
Okay.
it's not there, that's a
Well, I mean,
mistake.
there's a form, but
There's
like
a
I
form.
email y'all directly and
Yeah.
nobody else can, and it's not fair.
It's on some parts, maybe it's not on the front page, so,
Maybe.
yeah, there is a default form, I
Yeah.
don't love it as well.
And y'all know
Right
I started,
here.
I helped y'all start with the working group, start the
Yes,
OPO.
sir,
Okay,
yes,
I've been here since the beginning saying we
yes,
had a
sir.
problem.
But if you don't mind, I will take a look at that.
Yes, definitely something. we'll
I-
address.
Yeah, the form
that's
thing, not to overextend.
Yeah.
It's something they do for all the city departments because they're trying to reduce like spamming and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't want that issue.
Right, we do have our, I know that my team's email is on several pages for that exact reason, but I can double check and
And
be
then-
happy
and
to
then-
give your
You
feedback.
can use the real-time
And then, you know,
blacklist
like-
on the Exchange server. I mean, I'm a former network engineer,
Okay.
so you can,
And-
there's ways
So
on
like-
your email server. So all y'all's data is stored on the Exchange server according to your website.
I'm not
That's
sure
what
I
it
can answer
says,
that question.
And I would like to be able to take, with the problem with getting my police complaints and finding out, what happened to them and getting the numbers, getting it all lined up on my spreadsheet. I want to come in, like the state law says, the State Open Records Act, I want to be able to come in and look at your Exchange server and get my information since y'all, I'm not actually able to get it. Y'all are PIO is gonna try to charge me to keep me from having transparency, keep y'all from being transparent. And I have a right to talk to the custodian of records and take any digital photos or whatever I need to do. And that's what I would like to do. I'd like to set up an appointment for that to come look at y'all's computers. The deaf man that was abused and the woman, there was actually a woman there. So we believe, so through the process, I talked to the supervisor, he refused to show me the body cam. So I couldn't make a complete complaint because there's no transparency again. So the deaf man that I know, his name's Robert. I saved his life I saved maybe his limbs in the deep freeze that we had a few years ago. I took him to the cold weather shelter. He's been deaf. He's been on the streets. The city's ignored this homeless man for years. And the police have abused him. Other people have abused him because he can't talk. Like he can't communicate. So they did some orders, I'm pretty sure, and they beat the shit out of him like they did the trans woman, face forward with the Krav Maga move. We're seeing this over and over, and this is not a single incident. We're seeing this over and over and over. We saw an incident
Like,
Saturday night.
I think
Guy's
so.
blood was all over the street again.
Yes.
Hispanic man. And the main thing is, this isn't happening to white people. We film, and this has happened to people of color. And I know Joyce Johnson Consulting doesn't believe in racist cops and all that. We have Nazi tattoos that we've released to y'all, and y'all talk to me about it. Nothing's been done on their own body cam, on their own arms. So yeah, we do have a problem with that. I don't think that a deaf man should be abused because he can't follow an order or hear a whistle. I think that was totally abusive. I don't think he should have gone to jail. I don't believe handcuffs in the front. He's actually not a signer very well. I don't think he does ASL. A lot of deaf people, some deaf people come up with their own language and their own communications. A lot of people can just write it down or text it or something. Yeah. But again, they weren't going to communicate with them. They had created a victim out of somebody who was doing a pedestrian just because of the way they do the roads. They're now targeting people, trying to police people. So this whole policing of people is wrong.
Yeah, and as we see some of those things happening in terms of, I think they're from a policy perspective, we've talked about that, if there is someone who is deaf and hard of hearing and they use their handset, you don't want to handcuff them at the back. And so those are some of the type of policy
If he was doing
recommendations.
ASL, yeah, I would agree. But I don't think he does a lot of ASL. I don't really know much ASL. I can finger
But some of
sign.
those type of things we try to address from a policy perspective. Yes.
Yeah, so we talked about the brown trans lady was beaten and assaulted after they were close together. They were both during South by. Ruggiero hit and run when he hit us with his police vehicle and ran away. We didn't hear it. We don't know what happened to those police complaints. We don't know. We both filed a police complaint. The DA refused to press charges. So what happens if, and I've just asked an officer this the other night, what happens if someone throws an officer to the ground and leaves their teeth on the ground? Is that an assault or not? Does he go to jail? The officer told me I'd be in jail immediately if I did that. I think it was like a sergeant or a lieutenant. So that's what should happen to a cop that violates the law. And all the officers that were contributing are Confederates, they're associates, they're violent criminals together. And we know a lot of those cops. Those cops that assaulted that trans woman, we didn't know they were overtime staff.
It's just their badge gives them the right just because they have a badge to violate the law. Just because they have a badge, a police badge. Like if we did that to them, we would go to jail, right?
We want to hear everything you have to say, and I respect and hear you. Does anyone else have any questions?
I just wanted to comment on something that they were saying.
Okay. Like I say, we want to hear it all, but we want to respect other people's opinions.
Yes.
Thank you. what they're trying to sit there and say is that they want the police to be accountable for the crimes that they also commit on top of them policing, which I understand being on both sides of the tracks, you know, it's hard. I'm gonna tell you now, it's hard because there's a lot of people that think it's okay, some people think it's not. These guys are walking that fine line where they have to decide what's good, what they can and cannot do. And it's really hard for them because you gotta think about it. We want the cops, as a community, we want the cops to be accountable as far as, for example, if they murder somebody, guess what? You should get the double the penalty for
Sure.
that,
Yeah.
because you do better.
But it's never happened here.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
I understand that, and that's what, I'm hoping that's what you guys are, you know, are working towards, where the community has more of a say in what goes on in their community as far as the policing.
Yeah, and look,
I mean,
part of that is having a commission.
Yeah.
You know, having a commission, we just stood up the commission, and, you know, the commission will hear those concerns brought from the community. That's part of that. We are looking at those things that we have a case before us at the time. I understand some of those things that are happening out on 6th Street, if those things are brought to our attention from a complaints perspective. If someone is filing complaints or somebody makes us aware of a video or something like that, then that's where we can take action on those things. And so, yeah, absolutely, yes, and that's why we have these meetings, because we do want to hear from the community. We want to know what your concerns are and related to the Austin Police Department. But we have a scope of authority. Some of those things he talked about, ICE and going to the schools and some of those other things is just outside the scope of our authority.
I have a brief comment. I know that you guys focus on policy recommendations outside of the but, you know, between the annual report and what we saw here, just there is a pattern of APD not responding. APD not responding to OPO complaints in the same way that they do to their own internal complaints. There's a pattern of them not moving forward with your policy recommendations. What escalations are available to you? How are you as director moving forward to create more daylight?
Well, there's definitely an opportunity. I know that the complaints that we identified today, at this point, they have not responded. And when we say they've not responded, we are getting that communication that says we've received it. So they are making us aware that they have received those. Sometimes there is some span of time before they're responding to those. I think in our last meeting, we were able to give some updates on some of the responses that we received from APD. And so there is some span of time that we are waiting on some responses. And then there'll need to be some follow-up related to that.
So, I mean, 5 to 8 months seems like a long time to just let you know that you've received something. And to not see action, I'm gonna be honest, that's not an acceptable timeframe. And so are you meeting with council? Are you meeting with the city manager's office? Are you presenting in front of the public safety committee to daylight all of these recommendations that are not getting any movement?
Yeah, and as we noted, we are providing updates to the city council on a quarterly basis. Right now, that is a written memo to the city council members. There is nothing on the schedule at this time in terms of a meeting with them, a face-to-face.
I think it requires that. I think getting in front of council, in front of public safety committee, and showing them that they're not getting a response. APD getting press is how you get APD's attention.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you get their attention. And so I do feel like it requires some more forceful advocating on behalf of the office, because I see you guys doing work, and I see APD ignoring it.
We're doing a lot of work.
And I see APD ignoring it.
And there are some
ignored.
changes that we are making in terms of getting some of those responses. One of the changes that we made in terms of our memos, of course, we make our recommendations, and of course, the Oversight Act and Resolution 99 said you should respond to these things. And so as a result of not getting responses, we added that language to our memos. APO says, the Oversight Act and Resolution 99 said you should respond to this in this time frame. And as a result of that, we started to get those responses from the chief in terms of our recommendation. So if some of those things, we provide that opportunity to say, hey, you know what's in the ordinance, you know what's in Resolution 99, and then when we're not getting that or there's no action based on that, we are making some of those changes. And that was one of the changes we more recently made in terms of our recommendations, because we were not receiving a response to those recommendations in compliance with Resolution 99 and the Oversight Act. And as a result of that, we start to get those responses from the chief. So it's some of those type of things that we're having to do.
I just feel like the recommendations doesn't go
In
nowhere.
terms of compliance.
Yes, sir.
I understand the chief has made some changes in internal affairs, including having him report directly to her instead of having the middleman between them. But one of the other disturbing things about internal affairs was it used to be that your assignment to internal affairs was temporary. And once you quit doing that, they put you back with the rest of the people, which makes you open to retaliation. And I just wonder if they're continuing to do that.
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
If they're not,
Most of the people who leave internal affairs leave through promotion. They're all assigned sergeants. A lot of them, or many of them, are on the list for lieutenant. And many of the investigators who are down there go to a promotion to the higher rank and or an investigative element. In my experiences, I have not seen one that actually goes out to a patrol environment as a sergeant or a supervisor. And the change that you made, that you referenced, has changed back. There is now another layer between the internal affairs commander and the chief. So there's been adjustment to that adjustment.
so his statement is pretty interesting because the assumption is that the Boston Police Department is a corrupt gang that retaliates against officers that don't toe the thin blue line of shame. So, and that's totally true. That's a problem. The DOJ put out hundreds of recommendations, the FBI and the DOJ, hundreds of recommendations to APD 3 separate times, because I've talked to them 3 separate times, and the APD did what to the recommendations? They did not even respect the recommendations, and they didn't do any of them. And so what makes you think that that any of these recommendations mean anything when we're not actually upholding the law? We're just doing administrative, which there's law on the administrative. I don't know if y'all know that. If you look at the policy, it talks about the First Amendment, it talks about the Constitution. They all swore an oath to the Constitution and the people to protect us. So what's going on is criminal, treasonous, and oath breaking, and it's been going on so long, from the OPM, from Margot Frazier, from the Farrah Muscadin, from all these people, that it's entrenched. And there's just this body doesn't have the fortitude to get that kind of stuff done. The police have, there's been lots of news reports on this, not from me, from the Chronicle, Statesman, everybody, that the Austin Police Department is resistant to reform. Resistant to reform.
There's a video that's out, a police officer saying reform does not work.
Yeah, that this incrementalism is, the incrementalists are the ones selling y'all out because they're selling the people out. There's under Diary of a Bastard Cop, it's an ex-cop that said he was a bastard. He did a lot of bad things in the name of the badge. So like, we've got serious problems. They
do a lot of
the police retaliation for complainants. There's no protections, and I've been over and over and over. I've been retaliated, she's been retaliated, we're getting retaliated for filing complaints against police. The system's broken if you can't protect us. And there's no feedback loop apparently, there's no teeth in anything. So it's kind of just like a shuffle. It's kind of like the government going, oh, it's that department, it's that department. It's the same shuffle that we're used to. I don't think anything's gonna change.
Didn't y'all say y'all would want feedback from the community? This is the feedback what you're getting from the community.
We appreciate it. We really do appreciate it.
Because there's a big gap between the community that they don't trust. A lot of community members don't trust the law enforcement because they use that badge to abuse their power, and they're trying to pass laws to where you can't get your complaints, you can't get your evidence, you can't get, they don't want you to film the police. You got to be you can't cuss at the police. It's in the Constitution. we have every right to cuss the police out or whatever, or we have every right to film the police.
Protest.
Yeah, and protest, assemble. It's in the Constitution.
Yeah, it's a First Amendment and it's a case law in Houston versus Harris. But yeah, so, yeah, we got some bigger problems. I see these metrics and all they tell me is that nothing's really getting done. It's just, we're just filling out forms and going through the process. But what we want is police to stop beating people up. So there's a homeless woman of color, or a woman of color lives on the street, however you want to say it, that I live streamed about a month or two ago. And she said that officers are going around, they come up to her and they tell her if she doesn't have sex with them, they're going to be arrested. She's going to be arrested. And this is a common thing that the APD's had a rape culture, and that women have come to me confidentially but not wanted to come out. This is a common thing.
It's a common pattern.
I don't know what the hell we can do about it. She doesn't know the officer's name. She doesn't know the time and the place. I can't fill out a police complaint. I wasn't even there. I just have a secondhand incident. But this is, it's going on. Also, it's worse than that.
But some of those things are fundamental in terms of us having the ability to look into those things.
Mm-hmm.
We have to know who it is, or we have to have a location, we have to have a time.
Yeah.
As we attempt to do some of those preliminary reviews, there has to be some reference there.
Is it
for us
okay?
to-
But is it okay?
Absolutely not.
Then we need to investigate.
Absolutely
Then we need to
not.
investigate. It's a
But
crime.
It's
And it affects women.
It's absolutely.
It's not okay with me because I was born, I'm
It's
from
absolutely
Texas,
not
and it's not okay.
It's absolutely not okay.
Yeah.
But again, we have to have those references in terms of looking into something.
And if we don't, they get away with it.
And then
it
the police of
continues.
Shaft, Chief Police of Staff, Robin Henderson said, in the LGBTQ Commission Quality of Life meeting, said, oh yes, the officers that were there, they treated her with respect and dignity, slamming her down,
Like she admitted.
her face.
Yeah, we
on the
released
pavement.
that video, yeah. So, like,
How
so
do you explain
the
that?
committee
Is that
makes
discriminating in
recommendations, and
respect?
APD never takes them seriously. All these committees, no matter what committees, or even the DOJ, they ignored. So, to say that there's accountability and that we're working towards accountability is
It's
a
just
lie.
words.
What we're doing is we're just getting paychecks, and I've been telling y'all
Yeah.
that it's
People
a
don't wanna
matter
hear
of
the truth.
malfeasance.
They don't wanna
When
hear
you
the
don't do the
truth.
job that we're paying for you,
They don't want to hear the truth.
it's a federal crime if you take a check.
This is, so most of the community feels how we're feeling, you know? Yes, like there's community members that, that the law, we have to trust the law
There are some
enforcement,
aspects
you
of
know?
what you're saying, and I'll just say it, you're preaching to the choir, because we sit in our offices sometimes in complete disagreement. That's why if you look online, you'll see recommendations from the director.
But where do they go?
that's in complete
But it's a little
opposition.
different because we're on different
So-
sides of the fence, right?
Yeah, we're on
Like,
a different
But are
side.
we?
have you been arrested falsely by APD and filed a
We're not on the
complaint?
same side of the
I've done
fence.
it. I've been falsely arrested
I've been
over a
arrested.
dozen times by APD
What
for
Been
filing
arrested.
complaints.
So we're not on the same,
We're not
you know,
in
no,
disagreement.
we're not in
with
the same.
things that you're saying.
But we have a dog in the
understand what
fight.
you're saying. We
Like,
hear you.
we're not getting paid for our
But
complaints.
we are a department of the city that have
Yeah.
authority that's established by city.
They haven't been
charter.
arrested. I've been arrested, you've been
And that's what
arrested,
we
they
have to
haven't, so
operate.
we're not in the same.
But
thing.
it feels like fraud, waste, and
And we
abuse.
have to, I'm not trying to disrespect you, but we were told when we came, I don't know, Sarah, or we have a drop dead
minutes.
time where we have to be out of this room. I
Yeah.
want to respect everyone's
Yeah.
time. Does anyone else have any questions before we?
This needs to be
really
said,
do
though.
appreciate
This
the
needs to be said.
dialogue, though. It's important dialogue. We want to hear from the community. As the complaint supervisor has noted, we have a
Do they?
scope
They
of
wanna hear from the
authority.
community? Do they?
And again, we are making
Do they
those
actually wanna hear it
recommendations.
from the
We don't
community?
disagree. That's why you are seeing those recommendations that we are making to the chief of police when we are
Trying to cut
seeing
us
some of
off
those
speaking.
more egregious acts that are happening. The numbers that you're seeing here, we're complying with Resolution 99, and so that's why you are seeing the data laid out the way the data is laid out, because we want to comply with what our mandates are in Resolution 99, so that's what you were seeing there. You talked about, kind of like the data is just here, but we are complying with Resolution 99, and so that's the data that you are identifying here. So as we start to have more of these conversations, we appreciate the conversation. We appreciate the dialogue. It's an important conversation that we are having. I encourage you to go to our website, look at the recommendations. There are responses there from the chief. I totally agree with Commissioner Ramirez in terms of them responding to some of our policy recommendations.
We have had policy recommendations in which we were getting responses. This last quarter, we have not. Of course, and APD has a lot of changes going on there, and we haven't gotten those responses. Did you have something?
No, I was
Yeah.
just saying,
Yeah.
I feel like it is because of all the change
Yes,
that's
a
going
lot of
on right
changes.
now, but that still doesn't, I mean.
Yeah, it
we
doesn't
haven't seen a lot
justify.
of
Yeah, we
response.
haven't seen a lot of response in terms of policy recommendations.
But like, are they positive response, or are they just like, they're just giving you lip service and nothing changes?
They respond to say no.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. There's no
I mean,
impetus
of course,
to actually
they
reform.
respond in terms of what they believe to be is their justification for the actions that they took.
And they can always justify it, right? Because officer's
That's-
discretion.
Yeah, they can always justify it.
That's their
Yeah.
response.
So we've got like a bad baby that can't be spanked, and y'all are not effective in your role. You, for whatever reason.
That's why the community, there's a big gap
It's
between the community
actually
and.
just a whitewash. It's a
Yeah.
whitewash. And it's affecting the brown and black communities most.
Yeah.
And only the community can change that.
We
In terms
will.
of-
We'll
in
tear
terms
it
of
down.
giving
We
us
will tear
more-
it down and defund the OPO and the APD. That's the
Well,
next
another
step.
approach would be to
Mhm.
have an ordinance that gives the Office of Police Oversight a little bit more authority in terms of making decisions. We make recommendations, and that's not to say all.
They don't
parties-
Do
pay
y'all work
attention
with
to
the
it.
police? Are y'all face to
Yes.
face talking to police, shaking hands and all that?
Absolutely, we have to work with.
They work
So
with the
you
police.
may be conflicted and may not be the right people for the job. We need something separate from the police that's
And when I
not
say we-
beholden to
when-
them.
When I say we
They work with the police, yeah, they do.
Of course, we're in those interviews, when those investigations are happening, in that sense, we work with the police department. You know,
You
so
don't
we are
work
in
for
those,
them,
pardon me?
but you don't work for them.
We don't work for them, that's absolutely right. We
That you have a
don't-
relationship with the police.
We can't do this work and not have a relationship with the police.
Well, I think we have a different relationship with the police, and I'm doing this work, and I'm actually getting stuff done. They don't ignore my recommendations. I put them under arrest. When they do a felony, you have a right under the state law to do a felony citizen's arrest of an officer. When they throw that trans one down, they should have arrested that cop,
But they don't.
but they didn't. So we've got criminal cops, and then we got a system that's protecting them, and the entire system protects them.
The recommendations don't go nowhere.
So again, thank you all for coming. We appreciate the conversation. We appreciate the dialogue. Let's continue the dialogue. I think that's important. I think that's how we continue to do this very impactful
They don't
and
want to hear the
important
harsh
work.
truth. They don't
I
want to hear the truth.
encourage you, please visit our website. That's where you will see the work that is
They're
happening
getting paid.
in our office. So Sarah, did you want to close this
Was
out?
there any other questions? Just one last call for questions. I hope you guys stay around. If you can keep up with chatting with you guys.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Okay.
All right, one last thing is we have our next community event in August. Hope you will join us. So July is our open house at the Central Library. August will be probably virtual. We'll send out that information.
I just, yeah. Hi, Mia. I recognize you. Head Start director. I know.
I saw you at City Council meeting.
Did you? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Hi, I'm Bree.
Yeah. I'm Mia. Nice to meet you. I'm one of those people that's been trying to get stuff done for 10 years. Satisfied with what we do? If there's any way I can send them to you guys,